Hey, hey, happy Monday. Happy Monday. I know it's been a little bit since I've gone live, but I wanted to um I wanted to address really quick something that I've seen and I've noticed and it's come up time and time again. I think it's pretty important. And it's basically how, women really really women of all ages, but especially young women, teenagers are oftentimes pressured to compare their lives to what's on Instagram, and how that is causing more and more and more, I think, dissatisfaction, depression, and low self-esteem. And I've mentioned this before. There's been a ton of articles on this, and more recently, the Wall Street Journal released a report. It says Facebook knows Instagram is toxic for teen girls. Company document shows. We're going to go over that document in a bit. But basically, what it does is that it discusses, kind of what many of us have probably already known, which is more and more women, especially young women, young teenagers, girls, are going on Instagram and feeling incredibly insecure. They're seeing, the perfect chiseled bodies. They're seeing the perfect couples, or a woman doing 100 burpees, whatever it may be. They're seeing these things online and they are comparing their real life to what is on a screen, whether it's conscious or subconscious. But it is a very real thing. And many of you guys know, or some of you guys don't know, that I've been did digital marketing for about 7 years, for other companies. I worked with other companies, and my job was basically to build their digital presence. And so I was like, weekly, I was looking at trends, I was looking at what was going on. And a few years ago, I stumbled upon this report where it linked depression to the amount of time a person was on social media. And so I've known for a while that there can be really damaging effects to a person living online, especially women, susceptible women living online, if they don't have a strong sense of self, if they don't have a strong foundation. And there's more and more reports that are actually exposing this, but not necessarily anything is being done. So for those of you who have hopped on, thank you first of all. Please get the likes up. Um, if you haven't tagged anybody on here you think may find this interesting. And we're talking about how many women today, especially young women, are becoming more and more dissatisfied with their life because of what they're seeing on Instagram. I call it me no have syndrome, which is basically a person going online, a young woman going online and seeing what somebody else has and saying me no have that, and then ended up being sad and depressed. This is a real thing. This is not a joke. This is very much a real thing. So actually, first, I want to start by showing you something that I saw a few days ago. This is actually an ad that I saw a few days ago. Um, and I'm not even gonna lie. I'm a grown woman, and I'm not even gonna lie. At first, I had to go and remind myself and be like, wait, this isn't real life. And then when I went on this page and actually saw what was going on, I was like, oh, this is totally fraudulent. But I'm gonna bring it up. I'm gonna bring up this video to give y'all just a little bit of an understanding as to what I'm talking about. Um, if y'all are on, please get the likes up. Tag anybody. Let me know you're here. I'd love to hear from you. Okay, let me pull up this. Let me pull up this. Okay, so many of y'all know that right now the hourglass figure, that's it. That is like the end. Everybody right now wants to be hourglass shape. To me, I find it funny how like all of a sudden all women of all ethnicities, of all ethnic backgrounds, all races on Instagram all of a sudden have this perfect hourglass figure. It seems a little bit suspect to me, I'm not even gonna lie. But nevertheless, that is what's in. That Coke bottle, hourglass, that's all what it's about. You see more and more talks of BBLs, more and more liposuction, more coil sculpting, more, nothing, all that stuff. Hey, Kat, thank you for joining. Thank you for hopping on. We are talking about how women compare themselves to what is not real, and the different research that is continuing to bubble up and talk about this, and how I think that this not only does this, impact a woman emotionally, but I'm like, this will actually impact the expectation she has for life. And if you have unrealistic expectations for life, can actually be really damaging, and it can create a lot of chaos. That's why I want to talk about it. But I'm bringing this up for example. So here we see Shape Gal. Um, I I was scrolling on Instagram trying to post something, and I saw an ad. I saw an ad from this particular brand. So they're a shapewear design, they're a shapewear brand, and what they do is give everybody that Coke bottle shape. So I'm going to show. I just wanted to show this is one example of how powerful this particular item works. If y'all can see it, I'll pull it up. You see, she's rapping. She's about to give herself that perfect hourglass. She's going in. Y'all look at that. Okay, so we gonna play it one more time. I think it's gonna loop. So she's going for the Coke bottle or that curvy build, and here you go. Just a few little raps, and bam, it gives her a completely y'all. That is a completely different shape. That's a completely different shape. That is a completely different shape. Um, Now, why is this important? A couple of things. So the article we're going to go into a little bit. What it basically discusses is that many of these women, many of these young teenage girls who were suffering from the me no have syndrome, aka I don't have her look, I don't have her body, I don't have her resources, I don't have her social life. Those women who were comparing themselves to what they saw on a screen, they were becoming depressed. Some of them were becoming suicidal. Some of them are having negative thoughts, et cetera, et cetera. The reason I wanted to show this is because I think one, this is as far as I can see it, a representative of what is actually going on. She, she has this perfect or, this hourglass shape at the end, but the crazy thing about it is she's wrapping her body. She's doing all these different things basically to create an illusion of her shape that actually does not exist. And the reason I say that is because so often that is the case. So often what women are comparing themselves to, especially young teenage girls comparing themselves to, is actually something that is not real. It's actually something that is fabricated, or actually something that is just completely made up. Editing apps are real. So like I said, we don't even know what's been edited here. This could have been edited down for all we know. That happens. People editing their face, making their eyes wider or smaller, making themselves taller or slender. Photoshop is extra, 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 extra real. And then of course you add on to that the heavy makeup that is, today's beauty trends, and it creates this false narrative, and it creates this false representation of life that simply isn't real. And the problem with it is that you have young, susceptible women, teenage girls, but I would also argue you have grown women who fall into this narrative. And why do I say that? If that wasn't the case, you wouldn't have, I think, 1 in 4 women who are on some form of psychiatric drugs to deal with depression. It's, I think, at least 1 in 4 literally women who struggle with depression. I'd have to go back find exact numbers, but I did a live about this a few weeks ago. It's 1 in 4 women. And so again, I'm not saying that all of that is because of this, but I don't think it's hard to see that there might be a connection. So like I said, this is just one example, and there are tons of this, you guys. So often, I see, I get ads of body shaping stuff. I feel like it's every other day. Some brand is telling me, "Oh, get this perfect hourglass figure just with this." Some padded bra, they got padded panties, all kind of stuff. And so again, this is a problem when you have actually young girls comparing their real life to things that are fake. And I'm here to say it's like this stuff we see on social media, it is not real, and it's very unhealthy. It's very unhealthy for any woman, especially young women, to measure their accomplishments, to measure their self-worth, to measure how well they are doing with something that is fake. And unfortunately, what's happening is that many of these companies, they're not talking about that. They are downplaying the psychological impact the psychological impact that this is having on young women. I see this comment, even older woman exited. Yes, I absolutely totally agree. I mentioned this earlier, where although the report we're going to go over, it focuses on teenage women, I would argue that this affects all people. And there's plenty of other resources out there that do address that do say that, hey, in general, people on Instagram, people who tend to live on Instagram, um, who tend to live on social media, have a worse state of mental health than those who aren't. So, like I said, there's plenty of reports to suggest this. Um, but I think young teenage girls in general are the most susceptible, but also women. Like I said, I think a lot of women, and the reason I say that is because even when I start to listen to some of the conversations that I hear in this space, as a female content creator, I have the opportunity of listening to other well-known content creators and seeing what they're talking about, and just by way of me listening and assessing and hearing some of the complaints, hearing some of the challenges, hearing some of the woes, I'm thinking, yeah, I think it's very possible to believe that older women are, if they're not just as susceptible, they are a little bit, they're not too far behind. They are not too far behind. If that wasn't the case, we wouldn't have at least 1 in 4 women who are legitimately on some form of a psychiatric drug. 1 in 4 women. It says, "Sup, Sade, what is Meno have syndrome?" Meno have syndrome, I call it that, is literally Meno have, meaning meaning women who go online, young women, but women in general who go online, compare themselves to what they see online and say, "Me no have that, therefore I'm sad." Like literally, I don't have that. And what we're seeing more and more and more is that the women are comparing their lives to that which is not real, to that which is fantasy, and it's creating a lot more chaos, and it's creating a lot more unhappiness. And this is the highest in some cases among young women. So thank you for those of you who have hopped on. Please get the likes up. Please tag anybody on this post who you think you may find it interesting. And as I said before, me no have syndrome is literally a woman going online and saying, "Me no have, therefore I'm depressed, or therefore I'm sad." I mean, it may sound a little bit simple, but it's an actual real thing. It is a real thing. Because at the core, that's what's happening. A person going online and saying, "Man, if only I had that body, if only I had that figure, if only I had that man, if only I had a man like that, if only I had a thing like that." And literally, I mean, I've heard this from men. Kevin Samuels himself even said that. If you guys watched his post, his live yesterday, where he talked about, or I think last week, where he mentioned how he only deals with professional women. He doesn't like to deal with women who are on social media or who have to be on social media, because he knows that oftentimes that can come with real psychological implications, and it's a lot more tempting for women, especially women who doesn't have a backing, isn't settled internally, emotionally, in who she is. It's so much more tempting for that woman to get drawn away into the facade that social media is. And so, I mean, I've heard men say this, and they're just like, look, if a female, if she's living on social media, if she's living in her DMs, if she's always posting things and needing that validation, like, I can't mess with her, because where is she at psychologically, or where is she at with her actual sense of self? So, so the downside of keeping up with the Joneses, yes, 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 yes. And the reason I say that is because there's been more and more reports coming out. I'm about to pull this one up. One was just released from the Wall Street Journal, and it basically was looking at how more teenagers were becoming depressed. Specifically, teenage girls were becoming depressed as they were spending their time on Instagram. And the reason for this was comparison, right? But actually, let me pull it up. So again, for those of you who have just hopped on, thank you. Please get the likes up, and we're gonna go over this real quick. Let me pull up this other article. Okay. This is okay. So this is something I like I said, this came across my inbox and I wanted to address it because as I mentioned, I started coming across this research a few years ago. And unfortunately, the companies that actually profit, from people being online, they're not going to talk about it. Like, of course, Instagram or Facebook isn't going to blast themselves and be like, hey, like if you spend more time on us, you might struggle with mental health. Or if you are already mentally at a susceptible place, you might should limit your time. Like they're not necessarily going to say that because that's less money for them. But it is a real thing. So I just want to go through this real quick. It says, okay, about a year ago, teenager, I have no idea what her name is, so I'm not even going to try to say it. Okay, a teenager, Anastasia, let me say that, started seeing a therapist. She had developed an eating disorder and had a clear idea of what led to it, her time on Instagram. She joined the platform at 13 and eventually was spending 3 hours a day entranced by the seemingly perfect lives and bodies of the fitness influencers who posted on the app. So here, right here, we see a young, impressionable teenage girl going online and comparing herself to what she sees on the screen. The reality is this, and I mentioned this before. I think I really think women in general are a lot more susceptible to media and to marketing. The reason or to just media in general. I mean, a lot more susceptible to social media, a lot more susceptible to TV. A big reason for this is because many of these platforms market to women. I'm saying this as a person who worked in corporate, as a person who was a marketer and sat down and created campaigns. Many of these campaigns are oftentimes marketed to women. And so what they literally do is, I mean, it can go deep. They go into the psychology. They think about what is the age range of the target audience? What is their interest? What is their college education looking like? Are they married? Are they single? Do they have personal preferences? Do they like dogs? Like these companies, they sit down and they plot and they say the people that we want to reach, what are they into? Once they have created that ideal profile, they create campaigns, they create messaging, they create things to try to actually draw that person in emotionally. So this has been going on for years, and that's why I'm saying I think women are more susceptible to that because those of us who maybe they're not in their teens, maybe they're in their 30s or 40s. I mean, we still grew up on television. We had magazines. Yeah, Kat, to your point, we saw perfect models of magazines. So yeah, maybe we weren't comparing ourselves to what we saw on the screen, but we were comparing ourselves to what we saw on the magazines. But even with that, we weren't necessarily sitting 3 or 4 hours in front of a magazine. These teenagers, I think some of them have it even worse because some of them are literally spending all of their time on the phone. Like it's, and so it's almost like it's the same thing, but it's heightened. But my point is, these companies market to young women because women are just generally known to buy more. I think that's generally accepted across almost all industries that women are they're more consumers. And so for that reason I think women are just a lot more susceptible to these things because there are campaigns that are dedicated to making sure that women are susceptible to these things. And so in the article right here, I stopped because she says this 13-year-old girl, she has this eating disorder. She's comparing her life to these chiseled bodies that she sees on Instagram. So here's what she doesn't know. If you're actually deep in the fitness industry, you know this. Like I know different personal trainers. I was talking to one the other day and she told me that what usually these fitness experts do, because she's like, it's actually almost impossible to have that chiseled body look. It's almost nearly impossible to live like that every single day. Your body, it goes into different phases and it's usually there's an on and an off phase. Like if you're really deep into the industry, you know this. So she's like, many of these people who have these perfect chiseled bodies, what they are doing is they go and they may have a week or so where they do bulk photo shoots, they do bulk videos, and they just create all this content that's going to last them for the next however many months. They may diet up to that point. They may go on a crash diet, like this personal trainer. She was a bodybuilder and different things, and so she had to go on a very strict diet before she would compete. So she said they may cut their diet. They may take a ton of photos and videos the week, or two that they've cut, and then those videos are going to post over the next few weeks and make it seem as if they're living like that every single day, when in reality, Their body only looks like that after they've maybe starved themselves or maybe been in an all juice diet or only eaten all protein for, 2 months and cut out all carbs. But they're not living like that every single day. And so, going back to what I was saying earlier, if you're a young woman, you're a young teenager, 13-year-old girl, and you're seeing this image of just like, oh my gosh, she has chiseled abs. Oh my gosh, not knowing that that fitness trainer went on a crash diet for a month. She took photos that will last her 6, 7 months, and now she's living the rest of her time easy. I mean, she still may work out, but it's like, yeah, if you were to get her on an off day, she may have a little bit of a pudge. She may be bloated. She may be softer because it's not realistic for you to look like you're starving all the time. Like, and again, I'm talking to a personal trainer who's been doing this for like over 10 years, who's had thousands of different clients, have logged thousands of different um things, who has actually won a fitness competition. Like, so she's deep in the space and she's like, this is actually what fitness experts are doing. And so it's actually it's really unrealistic for it's really unrealistic for young girls or for women to go on there and be like, oh my gosh, her body looks like that, I can have that every single day, and not know that these people, a lot of these people who are pushing this lifestyle don't even live like that every single day. And that's just one example of many examples of how what we're seeing online is not real. But if a person doesn't know that, if they don't have understanding to know that, then they're going to compare themselves to a fallacy. And of course, that is going to create dissatisfaction. Yeah, crazy desires are so unrealistic, right? So yeah, I'm seeing some comments of BBLs. Yeah, BBLs have gone up. BBLs have gone up, and OnlyFans. All I mean, we just see it skyrocketing, and I just partially I wonder if the depression and anxiety that we're seeing among modern women, if it's partially connected to this different stuff that we're seeing online, because it is so damaging. It says, I don't mind pudge or tummy. It's about the proportions. Granted, now I don't know if you saw the video. I may play it again one more time. I don't know if you saw the video of the shapewear, because that's the thing about it. And many of these girls want these proportions. And what we're finding out is oftentimes similar to like to the heavy makeup, where the heavy makeup is creating an illusion. Many of these hourglass proportions, that is the hot thing. Most of these women don't even have that. They're wearing these shapewears. They're wearing these different things to give that illusion, and it's not even it's not even their real body. So, okay, but I'm gonna keep on reading a little bit. So it said around that time, researchers inside Instagram, which is owned by Facebook, were studying the kind of experience and asking whether it was part of a broader phenomenon. Their findings confirmed some serious problems. It says 32% of teenage girls said that when they feel bad about their bodies, Instagram made them feel worse. The researchers said in a March 2020 slide presentation posted to Facebook's internal message board reviewed by the Wall Street Journal. Comparisons on Instagram can change how women view and describe themselves. Facts. So, like I said earlier, these young girls are going online and comparing themselves to bodies of a woman who maybe went in a crash diet, or also comparing themselves to bodies that have actually been edited, photoshopped. I got a photo editing thing a few months, actually back when I started marketing for myself. I got a photo editing app. And you would be surprised. Like I literally was able to give myself new eyes. I was able to give myself new hair. I could make my face skinnier. I could make it bigger. They have body editing apps. So I'm like, how many of these girls and women literally comparing themselves to bodies that have been photoshopped, made to look bigger, made to look smaller? Like it's getting crazy out there. It's even hard to know what's real, what's not real. um It says the girl in the video still looks larger even with the big shapewear. Yeah, no, that happens. But to your point, the hourglass figure is in, and we see women of all shapes and sizes. We see really petite women. We see larger BBWs. But as long as they have that kind of Coke bottle shape, that is what's in. And to me, I'm not even gonna lie, I didn't really see a problem with it until I started noticing that, like, all of a sudden, all women of all ethnicities somehow magically have this body type. I'm like, how am I over here seeing women from Sweden, Russia? You got Asian women, Black women. Like, now, literally, all women have this Coke body type. Like, really? When 20, 30 years ago, it wasn't like that. So, thank you, Kat, for the super chat. I really appreciate it. For those of you guys who have hopped on, please get the likes up. Tag anybody on here who you think may find it helpful. And we are talking about me no have syndrome. Basically, women and young girls who go online and compare themselves to what's fake and end up being depressed. And this is from a recent finding I found on Wall Street Journal. And I think this is a problem because not only does this lead to depression, this can create unrealistic expectations on young women and girls in general, that can impact not only how they see their body, it can impact what they should expect in relationships. It can impact how they feel like they should be interacting with men. Like the implications of this are they're far reaching. Um, okay, so let me see. So it says, for the past 3 years, Facebook has been conducting studies into how its photo sharing app affects its millions of young users. Repeatedly, the company's researchers found that Instagram is harmful for a sizable percentage of them, most notably teenage girls. It says we make body image issues worse for 1 in 3 teen girls. Wow. And it said one slide from 2019 summarizing research about teen girls who experience the issues. It says, yeah, teens blame Instagram. It says among teens who reported suicidal thoughts, 13% of British users and 6% of American users traced suicidal thoughts to Instagram. That's crazy. Then it continues to go on. Let me see. It says, yeah, so Instagram, yeah, they are well positioned to resonate with young people. Like basically the users, more young people have been using Instagram. They've been kind of slowly going away from Facebook. But what we're seeing is that it's not necessarily healthy. Then if we continue down, let me see. There's one in particular where it starts going into. Let me see if I can find it. So here's one thing I want to look at. Okay, this is what Facebook knows. The Instagram documents form part of a trove of internal communications. Okay, it says the document also shows that Facebook has made minimal efforts to address these issues and plays them down in public. So what I was saying before is that these companies know that it's an issue. Facebook in particular knows that this is an issue, but they're not necessarily making it that big of a deal because to do so might actually mean it's going to impact their money. It says the company's research on Instagram. The deepest look yet at what the tech giant knows about its impact on teens and their mental well-being represents one of the clearest gaps revealed in the documents between Facebook's understanding and its public. But yeah, basically what it's saying, as I mentioned before, these companies know it, but they're not trying to hit their bottom line. They're not trying to mess with their bottom line. Now here it says social comparison is worst on Instagram, states Facebook's deep dive into teen girl body image issues in 2020. Noting that TikTok, a short video app, is grounded in performance, while users on Snapchat, a rival photo and video sharing app, are sheltered by jokey filters that keep the focus on the face. In contrast, Instagram focuses heavily on the body and the lifestyle. The features that Instagram identifies are most harmful to teens appear to be at the platform's core. And it says aspects of Instagram exacerbate each other to create a perfect storm, the research states. And of course, this information has been made known to the powers that be, but they haven't necessarily done a ton to try to address it. Or they certainly haven't done a ton to make it public. So, I mean, really, at the end of the day, Instagram in particular, just by nature of how it was created, makes it more likely for women, especially women who are mentally maybe not strong, to fall prey to depression. This affects teenage girls the most, but it also affects women. That's something that I just believe anecdotally, and there's certainly reports out there to suggest that. With that said, I think it's incredibly important. Let me see if I can. I'm gonna stop sharing this. And for those of you who hop on, actually, I'm gonna show this one more time because I actually think it's important. I think this actually gives a really, really clear example of it's funny to me, but it actually gives a clear example of the fallacy, how these girls are comparing themselves to what's fake. So here is Shape Gal store for those of you guys who hopped on. I guess this is a store that sells shapewear. So as I mentioned, the Coke bottle, that hourglass figure, that's the ideal body type. And I know someone in the comments earlier said, it doesn't really matter if she has a stomach. It's more about the proportions. What isn't said is that some of these women who are lovingly toting their perfect hourglass figure are doing so with shapewear. I cannot tell you how many different shapewear ads I get on the regular. And it seems like if you look at one, like I think maybe because I've interacted with this one because I found it so intriguing, I'm probably going to get more shapewear. That's just the way the algorithm works. But again, this was a primary issue that actually states that in the report. If you guys are interested, I can link it in the description. But it says that in the report that a lot of these girls, they were specifically thinking like, man, I don't have that like hourglass, like I don't have a big enough butt, hence more BBLs. I don't have those hips, I don't have a small chiseled waist, like all this kind of different stuff. And this is one example of what's actually going on. Most of them, this is what's happening with most women. And if they're not doing the shapewear, then they're doing the cold sculpting, and they're doing the liposuction. And then here's the thing. I'm not hating. I think I know women who have beautiful figures and beautiful shapes, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, if you feel good about your body, why not? Why not have fun with it? Why not show it off? But the issue is most people aren't actually. They're actually not showing off their real body. They're showing off an illusion. And anytime you create your real life to what's fake, that's never going to lead to any happiness. So, I don't want to spend too long on this because I've addressed this before in different lives, but as I said, I found this interesting because it came up again. Let's see. Let me remove this. It says, "I do like a cute chunky sister. Don't judge me." Hey, hashtag no judgment. I think people should be able to have their preferences. I really do. I know I may not be popular for saying that. There's a lot of movements out there. I feel like trying to get dudes to like a certain thing, trying to get dudes to like certain features. And I'm like, at the end of the day, I feel like a woman should be able to like what she likes, and a man should be able to like what she likes. If a man likes a chunky sister, as you said, okay. If he likes a really skinny, really, really skinny, lean girl, okay. If he likes BBW, like it's whatever. I don't think there should be such a big deal. Dudes should be able to like what they like. Like body shape, complexion, features, whatever. Like I don't really trip on that being like, oh, you gotta like somebody who's she has to be this dark or she has to be this light, or she has to be this tall or this skinny or this big, or else it's not valid. I don't buy that. Um, but what I will say, basically, case in point, a lot of the stuff that these girls are getting all sad about and getting all depressed about ain't even real. You go online, you see some of these Instagram models are over here talking about, their trips to Dubai or different stuff, not knowing that many of these, not knowing the different sexual favors some of these women had to do, not knowing that literally the different sexual favors they had to do to get there, the way they had to demean themselves, the way that some of them are going back into living in really small apartments or struggling with rent. Like most of the stuff we see online is it's false. It's fantasy. You know what else is interesting? It's a pandemic. It's a pandemic. It's been so for over a year now. If you go on Instagram, you would hardly be able to tell. You would hardly be able to tell. Seems like everybody's having their best life. Ain't nobody skipped a beat. And nobody skipped a beat on Instagram. Like a lot of different influencers, a lot of different spaces. Everybody's still talking about. Well, at least again, this is more in the female space. He's still talking about their luxury, still talking about their bags, still talking about their luxury vacations. And I'm like, yo, we are in a pandemic, and people have lost their jobs. So, case in point, people aren't actually necessarily talking about what's going on in real life, and that's a problem. And I think women in particular need to wake up and know that you can't really look to this phone or to social media as an indication on how as indication of how well you're doing. That's a bad idea. Like don't ever do that. And especially these young girls, it's fake. Most people are broke. Most women are struggling. I have another video about that literally says most women are struggling financially. 1 of 4 women are on some form of mental depressant. So don't let nobody fool you. Don't let ain't nobody out there who just living their best life, don't have a bad day, is looking perfect all the time. That's just not reality. I don't think men. Now, the report that I mentioned, Wall Street Journal, I'm going to link it to the description. It did say that teen boys also were impacted by this, but they weren't impacted as much. And I just think in general, this is just my personal opinion. This is my personal opinion. I just don't think men struggle as much when it comes to that kind of comparison thing because they're taught very young where they rank, if you will. Men aren't necessarily, they don't have the illusion of fantasy. They don't have the illusion of being talked to nicely. That just no. Men is just kind of like man up. They learn that as young boys. So I think men don't necessarily go online and like, oh, I don't look like that. Again, I'm not a man, but I just personally think this is something that is more unique to women, just by the nature of the way that we are treated, by the way the nature of who we are, by the way that the nature of also how we are nurtured. I see this comment, thick. Yeah, as I was saying before, I don't know if you're new into this conversation, but yes, thick is in the body Coke bottle, look, that's in. But you got to wonder how many of them thick women that are getting love are doing these body shapers. And look, there, hashtag no judgment. Like, do you boo? Like, if you want to do a body shaper, like, I'm not hating on it, but like, I literally saw this, and I was like, to me, this just said so much. This said so much. She gave herself the perfect hourglass figure in like less than 30 seconds, and you said we men always get a reality check. Bingo, exactly. So, like I said, I think this issue is unique, more unique to women by nature of how women are treated in this society versus by nature of how men are treated in this society. Uh, but at the end of the day, half of the stuff is fake. It ain't real, no way. And I think the sooner women and young girls are taught that and are made aware of that, um, then the better off. And I think that should, and it's, I think it's just that something you got to know. This is not, this ain't shoot from thick to thick. Yep, like literally. As I said earlier, I said, y'all, it's like almost every other day I'm getting body shaper. I get body shaper ads so often. So they're going after women. These companies are going after women. Literally every single, like every other day. Body shaper, and then I get cold sculpting. I get those two things every single day. So it's a real thing. Like I said, there are women who are doing all kinds of things dedicated to getting this look that many of them actually just don't have naturally. And is that helping their self-esteem or is it hurting it? I don't know. Well, actually, no, I do know. The evidence speaks for itself. It doesn't seem to be helping. So, anyways, that's all I really wanted to say. I think as women in particular, we got to know that this is not real life. Social media isn't real life. YouTube definitely isn't real life. You should actually be living your real life. That actually should be the goal, is to find happiness from your relationship with God. You got to start there. You got to find that internal spiritually, and to actually find happiness in your real life, not by some illusion that's on the screen that ain't never going to happen. Like, because it's actually it's doing more damage, and a lot of these companies are downplaying it. Facebook is downplaying it, Instagram is downplaying it, but it is continuing to happen. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you for those of you who have hopped on, who have commented. I appreciate you. Feel free to share this with anyone who you think may find this helpful, especially any young girls or women who you think are especially susceptible to social media. You got to let them know real quick. Do not get caught up in there. I don't mean I don't have like children yet or teenage children, nothing like that. But I like go back and forth as to whether or not I'd even let them be on social media, or if I did, I'd have to heavily monitor it because it's just becoming more toxic. It's just becoming more toxic, in my personal opinion. But I mean, we'll see. Anyways, thank you. Also, by the way, if you guys didn't know, YouTube just allowed me to release channel membership, and so I'm probably going to do a separate video on that, just letting y'all know the different perks. But check it out. I have different offerings for the top tier. I'm really excited to be able to offer different consultations. Like if you guys have people who want femininity consultations or cooking consultations, digital marketing consultations, as that's my professional background. So I have all of that included in the top tier. And there's also things in lower tiers that are also of interest, just different opportunities. So check it out, my channel membership. I'm really excited, and I look forward to being able to connect with you guys more. So again, thank you for stopping by. If you want to support this channel, also you can find me on Cash App and Venmo, Shay Sade. And we will talk later.